Okay, you're good.
All right. Hi, everyone. So sorry to keep you waiting. We apologize for the confusion. This is Rachel Howenstein, and we're here today to talk about StudySync and Distance Learning 102. So thank you very much for your patience as we got this rolling. Our webinar today is going to be presented by me with Amy Phillips and Scott Nunes moderating the chat window. So we're going to ask that during our time today, if you have any questions, we will pause periodically to answer those questions, but go ahead and type them in the chat window and they'll be able to share those questions with me so that I can respond to you. Our goal today is to really talk about how during this time of distance learning, we are keeping all of our students reading, writing, speaking, and listening every day. Our agenda is to take a look at the distance learning resources that we've made available in Schoology, and then we'll transition back into the StudySync platform and talk about Google Doc integration and the benefits of that for our students and for our teachers. And then we will really take a look at what the various scaffolds look like in the StudySync lessons and how that's going to benefit our English learners and our special ed students, and talk a little bit about various accommodations and modifications you can make for those special ed students on your rosters or the English learners on your roster. So we're going to start with taking a look at the distance learning resources that are in Schoology. Again, at the end of this section, we'll pause and answer any questions that you may have. So let's start with talking about how to get into those distance learning resources, including the distance learning curriculum maps. To get in there, of course, we're going to start with Schoology. And because we know we're talking to teachers from both 7-8 and the 9-12 grade spans, you'll need to select your grade span to enter into your Schoology account. And then, of course, log in, sign into your Schoology account as you normally would. If you are a 9-12 teacher, you have already been auto-populated into this group titled Distance Learning Resources because the group was built on our 9-12 Schoology platform. So 9-12 teachers, you just have to click on groups, and then you should be able to find the group with the tile that has the title Distance Learning Resources. Mine happens to be first because I moved that group up to the front on my list, but you may need to search through your groups to find it. If you are a 7-8 teacher, if you haven't already done so, you may have to follow a few extra steps to get to this particular group. So when you log into your Schoology account, 7-8 teachers, you will need to follow these steps to join the group. So you'll have to select My Groups and then select Join Group, and then select or put in this access code, and this will allow you to enter into that group, the distance learning resources. We're going to send this PowerPoint to you at the end, so you don't need to try to take a screenshot or capture this access code right now. We'll make sure that that is sent to you, or it can be also entered into the chat window. Once you are in the distance learning resources group, it automatically opens to the updates screen. Over the course of yesterday, I noticed that there were some people that were adding updates, posting some questions. This is where group administrators may post updates, or any participant can pose a question to the group. However, to get what we need, we're going to, on that left-hand side, click on the Resources tab. And here you will see all of the distance learning resources for the entire district. For elementary, it's been organized by grade level, but for 7-12, it is organized by content area. So for our needs, we'll click into that ELA file or folder. And once you click into the ELA folder, you'll see that there's a folder for 7th and 8th and a folder for 9th, 10th. So you'll click on the appropriate grade span for your teaching assignment. For our purposes, I went into the 9th through 12th grade folder and then went a step further and clicked on the 9th grade folder. And what you'll see, no matter what grade level you open up, is that the first 3 items are the same. Item 1 in our distance learning resources is our distance learning curriculum map. This is sort of a suggested guide of what a week might look like for distance learning in core ELA. The second item is a PDF document that explains to students and parents how to navigate the student platform of StudySync, what it looks like on the student side. The third item is a video that shows, again, parents and students how to navigate the student StudySync platform. We are recommending that you grab these couple of resources, particularly items 2 and 3, and put them into your Schoology class to make them available to the students and parents so that if they have any questions about how to navigate the platform while at home, that they have 2 available resources that they can use. When you open up your grade level folder on this distance learning resources, you'll see that there, below these first 3 items, there may be some additional resources that relate back to the lesson kind of curriculum map for the week. This is a sample of one of the distance learning resources curriculum maps. Notice at the top, we've got it listed by grade level, that this is the same Unit 4 that we would have seen in StudySync. However, it's been recreated as a distance learning unit designed with our current situation in mind. So following the instructional path of StudySync, not including the extended writing in StudySync, but following the instructional path, broken down by week and day, these lessons have already been customized that they should take students 30 to 40 minutes per day, which is the recommended time that a student would spend in the content per day. These lessons are standards-based, and you'll notice that we've included some optional suggestions to incorporate Schoology or other interactive content such as Nearpods or Edpuzzles or Frayer model vocabulary practice. If you sign up for StudySync 103, we'll spend some more time looking at those interactive options. We would encourage you after finishing up this webinar that you take a look at these distance learning resources in these folders. And if you have additional questions, that you shoot those questions to Amy and I, and we'd be happy to help you. At this time, we've kind of walked through how to get to these distance learning resources. Are there any questions?
So there is one question about trying to find the resources in Schoology that the person does not see an ELA folder.
All right, so I'm going to scoot back a couple of screens. So now this screenshot was taken a couple of days ago, so I, as of yesterday, it was there.
And also to make sure that you're in the district learning resources is a group, and to make sure that you are in groups looking for the distance learning resources folder and not going straight into resources.
All right, so yes, thank you. I'll come back over here. So you're selecting groups, choosing the distance learning resource group. And again, if you're a 7-8 teacher, following those additional steps to gain access to the group and selecting the resources, again, coming down to that ELA folder. And once that opens up, choosing the appropriate grade span.
And then there was also a quick question about Edpuzzle and Nearpod, and do the teachers have to create their own accounts?
All right, so I believe Nearpod, we have accounts that are already tied to our teacher Google email.
Yes.
And however, with Edpuzzle, I think we'll learn more about that you'll learn more about that on Friday, but Amy, is it correct that they may have to create their own Edpuzzle account?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's very fast, and Amber and I will be walking you through that in StudySync 103, either this Friday or next Monday and Tuesday.
Okay. Are there any other questions about the available resources in the distance learning group?
No, I think we are good to go now.
All right. We are now moving into how to integrate Google Docs in StudySync. We know we touched on this a bit if you were in StudySync 101 the 2 previous days. But the question is, why would you want to integrate Google Docs? Well, it allows for more powerful editing functions for our students, more advanced formatting capabilities. There's unlimited revision history. It allows students to be able to work wherever they have their Google Docs available. They also have a little more creativity in that they can do multimedia uploads and submissions through their Google Doc. Additionally, for teachers, when students connect their StudySync assignment to their Google Doc, it also connects to the teacher's Google account and creates assignment folders so that you can, as a teacher, give real-time feedback to students as they are working on their assignment before they submit it into the StudySync platform. So we're going to talk about what this looks like on the teacher side and then what it looks like on the student side. So to integrate Google Docs in StudySync, the first step is that the teachers have to make it available. So in order to do that, you log into your StudySync account, drop-down menu by name, and click on Settings. When the settings open, we're going to move to the very bottom option, the Google setting. We want to make sure that we're connecting to our work Google account, not our personal. So we'll make sure that we're entering in our work email address, selecting Google Drive as what we want to connect to, and then checking our Google integrations, and it'll verify that it has connected to your account, and then saving our settings. So those 4 steps to be able to ensure that Google integration. Once we have done this on the teacher side, then on the student side, we'll take a look at what it looks like for them. For our students, when they start working on any assignment that has this Write tab, so if we're asking them to do any type of writing assignment, will see that there's an option for them to create a Google Doc. If this is the first time that a student is connecting to their Google account, then they're going to get a screen that looks like this. They'll click Create Google Docs, and then it will open up and it will ask them to enter their school email address. That is their ID number at monet.k12.ca.us. It's letting them know that StudySync would like to have access to their Google Drive. So they'll enter their email address, click Allow, and this will connect them to their school Google account. So StudySync will now be connected to their Google Drive. Once they have done that, the students then are able to open that writing assignment right there to their Google Drive. So the student will see, you'll see there's kind of two tabs here. Their StudySync tab will still be open, but over here in a separate tab will be their Google Doc. The prompt will show up for the student at the top of the doc, and then there's a place for the student to type their response. Once they have typed their response, they go back into the StudySync tab, and we see an image of this down here. The students will go into the StudySync tab, click Preview. They will preview that their assignment has transferred back over to their StudySync assignment. And if they are pleased with what they have written, then they will submit their assignment. Yeah. It is worth reminding students that if they are going to use this Google Doc option, you're not required to, and they are not required to, but if they do, that anytime they want to go back to look at the reading, the text, or if you have included any sentence frames to support them in their writing, that they'll need to flip back over to the StudySync tab to get the reading and get the sentence frames, unless you as the teacher, and we can talk about setting up, at the end we'll talk about setting up writing prompts. If you included the sentence frames here below the writing prompt for the students, then it would automatically open up in their Google document. Okay. So those are the steps for the teacher and student to integrate Google Docs with StudySync. Are there any questions?
So, Rachel, some questions have been coming in about putting together some screenshots for teachers to share with their students in Schoology about how to link their how the students could link their Google Drive, and I said absolutely.
Yes, in fact, I will add that I know I have already a link in my notes of this PowerPoint that are linked to a PDF in the StudySync Help Center that actually takes teachers and students through this process.
Excellent. And then also there was a question about a writing process video that is already in the, I know it's not necessarily a Google question, but it came in right as you moved on to Google Docs. Is that something that is for teachers, or is that something that is for students?
A question about a writing video.
A writing process video that is apparently in the Schoology. Let me go back to that question. The question is, should we put the writing process video in the resources for our students? There is already a writing process video in the 712 resources.
I will have to go back and take a look at that. It is possible that somebody else may have added that resource. It wasn't, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I didn't.
We will take a closer look at that and get back to the group about whether or not to link that in your
right
in your Schoology account.
And then a quick update in the chat, at about the 11:20 mark, I went ahead and threw in 3 screenshots for how to access the distance learning group for anyone that may be stuck.
Thank you, Scott. All right, are there any other questions to address at this point?
Oh, it's in the 10th grade folder. Okay. So we will take a look at that video and then reach out to everyone again about the appropriateness of the video for students.
Thank you. All right, well then with that, we are going to move on to talking about scaffolds and accommodations and modifications that you can make within StudySync. We want to talk about the customization features that can best be used to support the range of learners on your rosters. We're going to talk about how these various options will meet the needs of your English learners, your special ed students, bearing in mind that the lessons that are in the distance learning units in StudySync have already been created and customized, again, to be about 30 to 40 minutes per day, and customizations already made to keep in mind distance learning. However, you may want to go in and further customize these lessons, again, to support the range of students that you have. So first step in order to ensure that you can provide these scaffolds and accommodations and modifications to students. This was mentioned in StudySync 101, but it's worth reminding that the first thing we have to ensure is that our students have the appropriate settings to be able to receive the scaffolds. So going back into StudySync, in the Users tab of StudySync, you would select your class and select group membership because we want to see all of the students in that class. And once we've selected group membership, we'll see our list of students. This is Amy's practice class, not a lot of students in there. But for each student, you would choose a language proficiency level. So how proficient are they with the English language? And depending on what proficiency level you assign to students, this will determine the level of scaffold that will automatically be given to them if we set those scaffolds in place on the assignment. Additionally, if your students come from a household where English is not the primary language, you may want to consider offering that support language, and we'll talk more about what that support language offers to our students and our parents. Okay, so that's just the reminder of how to set those parameters, those settings for our students so that they can get the appropriate scaffolds. So let's talk about the different lessons that have been set up in those distance learning folders, again, following the instructional path. In previous StudySync trainings, whether it's been our webinars this week or in your initial trainings in the StudySync implementation, we learned how to assign a blast. But in this particular situation, we can choose to be more intentional with our directions for the blast. The types of things we would have normally said to students in class, we might need to actually put them into the teacher directions. So we can customize the lesson by including specific instructions. Now, again, on these distance learning units, Amy and I have already set up these instructions, as you see on the screen. However, you may want to go in and further customize. And notice that you can embed a web link or even a video if there's something else that you want students to do to further build their background knowledge before responding to this blast. In addition to customizing the instructions, you can also adjust the Lexile levels. When you first set the blast, when you first assign it, it's automatically set to that middle level. However, you can either choose to give it to students at a lower Lexile level level, or if you have on the user tab set those appropriate scaffolds, then students will automatically receive the blast at their appropriate Lexile level. So you can go in and customize so that everybody's getting the lowest one, or you can allow it to automatically tell students which, or it won't tell them, I shouldn't say that. It will automatically give them the appropriate level Lexile. In addition to being able to customize the blast lessons, we want to talk about the reading lessons. So whether we're talking about a first read or an annotation reading or a reading quiz, these are all tied to those kind of first read lessons. Again, we can customize the instructions, be very explicit about what it is that we want our students to do with this reading. So for example, we can customize what type of annotations we want them to make or something we want them to do as they are reading. Again, we can include specific web links or video links. We also have a number of assignment options that we can offer students that will help scaffold the reading for them. So first thing I want to talk about is having the audio feature on. This is going to benefit our English learners who can listen to the text in addition to reading it. It's going to benefit our special ed students who need to have both the print and the audio available to be able to comprehend the text. We also recommend that the intro piece is on because that introduction gives some background information, along with the preview on. This allows for that preview video, that little text trailer, if you will, a little movie trailer that gives students some prior knowledge about what it is that they're going to be reading. You might also consider turning on the learning objectives, so for students to know what it is they are working towards. What is it that they should be learning from this particular lesson? If we utilize these particular audio features and if we have set up the settings in the users tab, here's an example of what it might look like for students. If we have set it up so that, oh, you know, I'm going to go back. There's one piece I didn't mention on the last one because I forgot to change that. So the summary on, that's another piece that's really important. This is the summary of the reading that the students will have. So it doesn't tell them the whole story, but it just gives them a one-paragraph summary. And again, the reason why that would be important to turn on, I'll go on to the next screen, is that if we have that summary turned on for students and we have also assigned a support language, then what we will see is that the students and parents will get that summary presented in that support language. This way, parents who may not have great proficiency in English can read it in their home language. It will also present it in audio. So if the student or the parent were to click the audio of the summary, it will actually read it to them in their home support language. Additionally, we can slow down the speed if needed so that we're, again, making that content more accessible to both the parents and the students. What's nice about this is that we talked about wanting to incorporate speaking into a student's daily educational routine at home. This would give them an opportunity to be able to talk to their parents about what they are reading. Additionally, talking about the audio features that are available within the reading lesson, in the reading selection itself, students can turn on paragraph numbering to help with organizing the reading so they can really dive into paragraph 1, 2, 3, and so on. Students can listen to the audio if we have turned on that scaffold for them. And what's great is if during the audio, if they turn off that annotation button, let me come back up here. If they turn off the annotation button, then they can also click highlight. And as they're listening to the audio, StudySync will highlight the sentence that is being read to the student so that that will help with students, again, English learners or our SPED students or even our general ed population, will help them with tracking the text as it is being read to them. And again, students have the ability to slow down the audio so that that can help with their fluency and comprehension. If I am providing scaffolds to students, this is what it will look like on the student screen. So if I've assigned the approaching or expanding or bridging scaffolds to our students, or particularly the approaching or, excuse me, emerging or expanding scaffolds for our struggling readers, the students will see a slide-in scaffold. These slide-in scaffolds will offer a variety of help. Might give definitions of key vocabulary, may give guiding questions for reading, and what we think are really helpful, it offers sentence frames for answering the think questions. So if a student has these scaffolds available and they type in their response in the sentence frame here in the blue box and then click the arrow, it will transfer the answer over into the think question box for them. And so really a nice feature available for, oops, let me go back, sorry. A nice feature available, again, for our struggling readers or students who need that available support. For the skill lessons, again, if we assign those scaffolds to our users, it will provide students with some guiding questions for the modeling section. So again, we can see that here's the model section of the assignment for the students, and it's providing some guiding questions for students to answer as they read. It may also provide some vocabulary support. So if we think about the first 3 quarters of this year, you've been addressing these standards, these skills with your students, and we don't want them to lose that practice. So these skill lessons that are in StudySync allow students to have those standards reinforced, but these embedded scaffolds in the define section of the model lesson or in the skill lesson and the model section, students are able to get that extra support. And then I would also, again, remind that in StudySync 103 that will be offered on Friday and Monday and Tuesday, we will talk about how we can support these skill lessons through the use of Nearpod and Edpuzzle. Now we want to talk about what does it look like for giving feedback to students, because if you notice on these scaffolds, it says scores not available at this time. In other words, I can't score the students on completion of the scaffolds. However, I can provide feedback to the students. So if I were to go into my assignment report because I want to see what students have completed on the assignments that I have provided, I can open up the student response and I can click over to where it says scaffolds. And I can see that on this particular skill lesson, there were 2 questions, 2 pieces of the scaffolds. And so I can see if the students use the scaffold. I can click over to the second question and again see if the students actually utilize the scaffolds that were provided. And while I can't score the scaffolds per se, I can give feedback. So after I've looked at what the students have completed in the scaffolds, I can click my feedback and I can type feedback to the students, not only regarding their final answers, but also their use of the scaffolds that were provided. The last piece of customization we're going to talk about are the writing lessons. You are able to customize the writing assignment, the writing prompt. There is the given writing prompt provided by StudySync. And if you use the given writing prompt, it will also, if you have the scaffolds in place, there will be sentence frames to support that writing prompt. If you choose one of the suggested writing prompts, if you decide to choose one of these others, because you want to customize it for your students, you can do that, but please be aware that if you do, those sentence frames that are provided by StudySync in the scaffold will no longer match. So you might want to provide the sentence frames down here underneath the prompt that you would want your students to use. Notice too that you can type your own writing prompt. So if you want to change the writing prompt completely because you know what you taught your students earlier in the year, you can do that. But once again, those provided sentence frames from StudySync won't match. So you might want to consider providing some sentence frames for your students in that particular text box. Okay. We've talked about a number of different available scaffolds. I want to stop here for a moment and ask if there are any questions about the available scaffolds or customizations.
So this is Amy, and there have been quite a few questions come through. Many requests for screenshots of the scaffolds, and so we can work on that. A question about the languages, but I think that one was answered when you showed the screenshot of the summary where it was available in both languages. Yes. And then a question about the Lexile level for the blasts. Can it be lowered even further for our really struggling readers?
So the answer to that is no. Those are the three. Every blast is different, and every blast comes at 3 available Lexile levels. If you feel that your students need a blast at a lower Lexile level, you can search the library to see if there is a similar blast on a similar topic that comes at a lower Lexile level. But whatever is available in that particular blast lesson, those 3 levels are what are available in StudySync.
Kind of a follow-up to that, are they able to search by Lexile level, like in the library?
I believe they can. However, I know we have found in the past that sometimes the search function isn't always as accurate as we might like to be. So I think, yes, it does allow you to customize the Lexile level. So that's probably a good place to start. But then you may also still need to open up those blasts that they are suggesting and see what the 3 Lexile level choices are.
Okay. And then there's a question that just came up in terms of the PowerPoint and screenshots. We will be able to share those after. We'll put them in this chat along with the video recording.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and as I said, there are a few more questions.
Okay.
The auto for the assignments in the distance learning units, are all of the settings the same? Like, is the audio set on all of them? Is the summary set to appear on all of them? So
my answer is yes. I believe we have customized them all to have these scaffolds already in place. However, I would still encourage you, as you assign these to your students, that you double check that none of the settings have changed. But yes, we did already customize them to have these pieces in there, but still check them again. Check and double check. It would never hurt.
Okay, and then last was a question about, actually 2 questions, expanding the language options. There are only about 5 or 6 listed in StudySync right now, but there is that other.
Yes, they are in the process of adding more support languages. This is what they have started with, and I know that each time we check, they are adding more. So for now, this is what we have. I know that it doesn't include some of the languages that are common in our district, the Farsi and whatnot, but keep checking back, because it may not be there today, but it might be there in a week or 2. And
Yeah.
we'll keep checking in with the publisher to see the time frame for adding those additional languages.
Okay, and I see that someone is already in StudySync and trying to select other. And right now, other is just a placeholder for StudySync to be able to add those other languages. Other doesn't do anything right now, so that person is correct. And my last question that I had written down, can the scaffolds be applied to anyone, or do they have to be EL students?
Excellent question. They can be applied to anyone. In fact, during this time of distance learning, we would certainly encourage you to utilize those available scaffolds for all of your students who would need them, not just your English learners. So while we were talking specifically about EL and SPED, certainly these scaffolds would be beneficial to all students, and for parents as well who are looking to support their students, and giving even the parents an idea of what the expected answer should look like, what a good solid answer looks like with the sentence frames.
Okay, and one more came in. If the summary is already assigned, will it appear automatically, or do we need to set the language for the support language?
Thank you for asking. Yes, so if that summary box is clicked on, it will automatically give the summary in English. If you want the students and parents to receive it in that support language, then you do need to have previously gone into the Users tab and selected the support language for those individual students. So the nice thing is that once you've gone into the Users tab and selected those proficiency scaffolds and those support languages, then they are set. So once you've done it once for the year, you don't have to go in and do it again.
I think that is all of the questions
Okay.
for now.
All right. So just one more slide. I know that the information that came out from the district office yesterday indicated that there's still more information to come about meeting the needs of our special ed students. But I still wanted to provide you with this slide to think about for our special ed students, either our resource students who are in a general ed course, or for our special ed students who are in a parallel course where they utilize the core curriculum. Here are some thoughts, some ideas about how we can make this learning accessible to our students and still help them to meet the standards, or if necessary, if we have to modify the assignment, they may not be meeting grade level standards, but we're still providing students with the opportunity to read, write, speak, and listen each day. So this is just a list. I would encourage those of you who are participating, if you have anything else to add to this list, that you could type that into the chat window at this time. But these are some ideas to consider. A lot of the accommodations we have talked through already, but if you have to modify for students, taking a look at that right-hand side list and thinking about what you can do, again, to keep students actively learning, but perhaps doing so in a way that's going to meet their needs and not cause frustration for the students or the parents. Right. And I would encourage you to take a look at your class rosters, and there should be, usually there's some sort of indication of who are those students who have IEPs, who have individual education plans, because they fall under that SPED umbrella. And so thinking about what you might need to do to individualize for those students. Were there any questions or comments that came up in what we can do to support our special ed population?
No, just some appreciation for considering those needs as well.
We are aware that we, as a district, StudySync is utilized in a variety of classroom settings, and that we have a variety of students in our classrooms. And so we need to really be thinking about the whole population. Great. Well, we apologize for kind of the late start, but we have about 8 minutes by my clock to finish up this hour of webinar time. If you have any additional questions, we'll stay on for the next few minutes to answer those questions for you. If, as you are working through these coming weeks, you have additional questions about StudySync and the Schoology integration piece, please feel free to reach out to myself or Amy. A reminder that coming tomorrow, sorry, not tomorrow, Friday, and again next week, we have StudySync 103, which will look at enriching the distance learning experience with some interactive tools.
And also in the course catalog, we're going to have a bunch of Schoology course offerings. So check those out as well. And if you don't see an available time for the one you're looking for, make sure you expand the option. So it'll show you 3 initially, and then you have to hit a select all sections or see all sections option to be able to see everything that's offered for that particular course.
Thank you, Scott. All right. So
Additionally,
yes.
In the chat, it came through that Lorena Souza offered up her expertise for any students who are both EL and special ed. And if the teachers are providing designated ELD, to please contact Lorena Ortega Souza to get help with that content.
Thank you. All right. Well, again, thank you very much for participating today. If you have no further questions or concerns for us today, then you are welcome to log off of this call or this meeting. However, if you do have some additional questions or comments or concerns you want addressed, feel free to stay on and add them to the chat window.
Right, and be sure you mark your attendance on the Google form.
Yes, let me throw the link back in there. It's up at the top, but I'll refresh it. Give me just a moment here. Okay, there it is again.
And Rachel, I had a moment to go check out the video that's in the 10th grade Schoology folder. Matthew Ketchum dropped it in there yesterday. So I didn't know it was there. He put a few things there in that Schoology folder that we'll need to check out ourselves.
Okay. Go back to the screen. Any more questions?
I'm not seeing any.
All right.